Okay. Hey, holy brother. Okay. So we're going to try and go through a lot of stuff very quickly.
Oh, you're still working.
I'm telling you, between the two. Okay, so we got a lot to go through tonight.
No, you can't.
We're going to combine 4 classes into one. Okay? It's time frame. So here's the reality. We are about to have Shavuot. Are you guys here okay? Okay. We're about to have Shavuot in just over a week. And it's about the wedding ceremony with God. The relationship specifically between God and the people of Israel. But if that's true, then how is it what's going on in the world goes on? With the anti-Semitism, with the issues of what's going on October 7th, the issues with the social influencers and their hatred. And so I think it's good to kind of put everything in perspective so we can really celebrate Shavuot, which is a holiday of joy and a holiday of such passion. So who wants to begin reading on the first page? This is new stuff. There's some old stuff. There's some new stuff.
The covenant.
The covenant. Go.
Now the Lord said unto Abraham.
No, you missed the top.
God chooses to marry.
I came up with a great quote that you could quote me on, and you're just going to ignore it?
I thought you just totally talked about the banquet and everything. So I figured this was like you already rocked it. All right. God chooses to marry the people of Israel, and we accept that choice at Mount Sinai. Torah is our ketubah, wedding contract. The land of Israel is our dowry. Shavuot itself is our time of Yehud. And Sukkot is our honeymoon.
Okay, so this is really important where we are right now. We are in the engagement period of the counting of the Omer, which is we get engaged on Pesach, we get married on Shavuot, and this is the engagement period. Please continue about the covenant.
Covenant. Now the Lord said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto the land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and be thou a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and him that curseth thee will I curse, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed.
God made a covenant with Abraham and his descendants, our people. Go on, please continue.
And the Lord said unto Abraham, after that Lot.
This is before Abram. It's Abram.
Abram, sorry. After that, Lot was separated from him. Lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art, northward, and southward, and eastward, and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it, and in the breadth of it, for unto thee will I give it.
We give the translations. Genesis 13, God gives the land very specifically to us. Let's make this really clear. I was on the phone. I was in a conversation today for the new show with Pastor Jack Gibbs, who's a major evangelical, and very clear. His belief is, as evangelical Christians, that the land is ours. There's theology, we're going to get into that. Please continue.
Then in the vision, God took him outside and said, look toward heaven and count the stars. If you are able to count them, continuing, so shall your offspring be.
God is making these covenants over and over with our people. Continue, please.
On that day, God made a covenant with Abram. To your offspring, I assign this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the river Euphrates.
God, very clearly. Why is it so important? The rabbis ask, why is it so important at the beginning of the book of Genesis that it talks so lengthily and extensively about the creation of the world? Why? Because it demonstrates that God created the world. And if he created it, he gets to give it to whomever he wants. If I make a painting, I can say, hey, Warren, you want my painting? Give it to him. Right? I have the right because I own it. God created the world. He gives us again right here that land, and it's defined. Please continue.
And I will make my covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thee exceedingly, And Abram fell on his face, and God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be the father of a multitude of nations. Neither shall thy name and more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham. For the father of a multitude of nations have I made thee, and I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and thee and thy seed after thee throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto thee and to thy seed after thee.
Listen to the next line carefully.
And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land of thy sojournings, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God.
I'm sorry, temporary possession? A permanent possession. It's a permanent covenant. By the way, that's where the brit, brit means covenant. The first time we see the word brit in the Torah is when we hear about the brit of the rainbow. God makes a covenant. Here's the rainbow. I'm not going to destroy the world anymore by water. Then we have this brit milah. That's the circumcision of the foreskin. And so that's what this is. Abraham gave his foreskin. We get the land, which he'd already committed to us before, forever. So whose land is it?
Ours.
Thank you. Please continue with the last part on page 2.
Now therefore, if ye will hearken unto my voice indeed, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be mine own treasure from among all peoples, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation.
Okay, so it's really important to realize that this is land that has been given to us. Right? That line is called the Mosaic Covenant, which is saying that if we do what we're supposed to do, God will keep treating us holy. When we don't, it's still our covenant. We just won't be having. Any questions so far about this? Whose land is this?
Ours.
Okay, what's the relationship with it? God. And it's ours. It's covenant, right? So here's what happens in Christianity, in some forms of Christianity. It's called, I always stutter, supersessionism or replacement theology. Supersessionism or replacement theology is that since the Jews rejected Jesus, therefore we are replaced by something new. What does it say there? It says everlasting covenant, right? So who's in charge? God. And if he makes an everlasting covenant, he's timeless, doesn't even know what's going on. So please, who wants to start reading where it says replacement theology?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Does it say?
If you do it loudly, because we got whatever.
I'm going to start singing. No. Does it say in Christian theology, in part 2, I call it, is there a spot in there that says somehow he's taking it?
Nope. In fact, Paul says that's not replacement theology. Paul actually says Jesus is a Jew, and he talks about his brethren, Jesus' brethren, all of whom were Jews.
So where do they come up with, since it's Jesus, now you don't got to do anything?
That's called the Brit Hadash. We're going to get to this. The
Okay.
actual name of the Christian scriptures in Hebrew, the original name was Brit Hadash. Brit Hadash means new covenant. The idea being that we're going to replace this covenant with a new covenant. But it doesn't change the deal that God's already made. That's an everlasting covenant and some other things. So the idea is instead of the 613 mitzvos, they just have to accept Jesus.
Right.
Which, by the way, is much easier to convert the pagans to. Okay? On the one hand, pagan goes up and says, a Jew comes up to a pagan and says, Mr. Pagan, we'd like to convert to Judaism. And you say, oh, that's one God idea. It's a nice, interesting idea. What do I have to do? I said, well,
give me your
we're
foreskin.
going to cut your foreskin.
Right.
Okay?
Number 1.
That's not a good sales technique. A Christian comes up and says, hey, what do I have to do? All you got to do is say, take Jesus in your heart. One's a lot easier than the other. Okay? It's just
less painful.
I don't remember. But I'm told. So, who wants to read from replacement? Go. Loudly.
Replacement theology, aka supersessionism. The original name of Christian scriptures is Brit Hadash, the New Covenant.
Loudly, Fiona. We got a guitar playing, doing whatever.
Jesus superseded and replaced the Mosaic covenant.
So understand, the concept is that Jesus replaces the Mosaic covenant, not the Abrahamic covenant. Okay? The Mosaic covenant is based upon the idea that what we just read at the top, that you need to do these things. But it doesn't replace the Abrahamic covenant. Go ahead, go.
The universal church has become God's new Israel, Thus, Christians are the people of God, not Jews.
That makes sense? This is what replacement theology is. Go on.
Until Nostra Aetate.
Nostra Aetate. Are you getting too smoked out, Warren?
No, I have to. I'm going to get another layer.
Until Nostra Aetate, Vatican II, 1965, Catholic teaching on the matter was characterized by displacement or substitution of theology, according to which the Church and its new covenant took the place of Judaism and its old covenant.
So it makes sense? So this is what goes on in the Catholic Church pre-1965. Up till 1965, from the 4th century on, when the Vulgate is written, up until that point, the idea is that the Catholics are replacing. Jesus is replacing Judaism. Okay, go on. That's what their theology. Even though it doesn't say that in Paul or anywhere in the New Testament. Go on.
The latter being rendered void by the covenant of Jesus. The nullification of the old covenant was often explained in terms of the deicide charge that Jews forfeited their covenantal relationship with God by executing.
So this is the idea that if the Jews were responsible for killing Jesus, therefore they should not be alive, let alone thrive or survive. And by killing Jesus, who is God, they are now thrown out of their covenant. They've broken the covenant. Okay? But that's just not the reality. Go on, please.
From Nostra Aetate, retrieving Paul's language in chapter 11 of his epistle to the Romans, the declaration states, God holds the Jews most dear for the sake of their fathers. He does not repent of the gifts he makes or the calls he issues.
This is literally from Vatican II, which is the official Catholic doctrine as of 1965. Go on.
Although the Church is the new people of God, Jews should not be presented as rejected or accursed by God, as if this followed from the Holy Scriptures.
Does this make sense to everyone? Yes? No? Yes? Okay, I know it's hard with the music on. Okay, please continue.
By the death of our Redeemer.
This is a direct quote from Pope Pius. Go on.
By the death of our Redeemer, the New Testament took the place of the Old Law, which had been abolished. Then the law of Christ, together with its mysteries, enactments, institutions, and sacred rites, was ratified for the whole world in the blood of Jesus Christ. On the gibbet of his death, Jews made void the law with its decrees and fastened the handwriting of the Old Testament to the cross, establishing the New Testament in his blood shed for the whole human race.
This is Pope Pius. Now we want to turn on a light. It might make it a little easier too. So let's be clear on what this is saying. This was the Pope Pius, who basically says the Jews should be dead anyhow, and they've been replaced. It's all been thrown up on the cross. This is the New Testament. They are no longer necessary. By the way, who's Pope Pius? Pope Pius is called Hitler's Pope. This Pope Pius could have stopped the entire Holocaust, except he was a coward and he was a whore. Okay, and I have no issue saying that to any Catholic as well, because here's the reality: Pius was the Pope. He could have told all of Europe, all the Catholics, fight Hitler, and they would have. But he was too concerned with what he could get out of Nazi Germany. Every 10 years or so, the Church tries to sanctify Pope Pius, and those of us who remember enough and are knowledgeable enough point out how can you sanctify this guy? He's not a saint. He's the exact opposite. He was a whore. Okay, he hoarded himself for money and for power with Nazi Germany, and they're going to keep doing it every 10 years until no one remembers what happened in the Holocaust. And then they'll sanctify him, because that's what they do with all popes.
So this sounds like it's a complete political hit job, not necessarily in New Testament text.
Correct. Very much so. And
it's
so
a politicking of
exactly.
power.
And they try and change that with Nostra Aetate in 1965. And one of the people who helped write Nostra Aetate was a man named Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. He was actually deeply involved in the writing of Nostra Aetate of Vatican II. And his main disciple was a guy named Rabbi Elijah Shulchan of blessed memory, was his disciple. So yeah, it's very much about politics, and you can see how it's changing. So we talk about this is what the replacement theology was. It gets reversed in 1965, but in the 40s, it's very much a part of Catholic theology. And let's see some other times. Go ahead.
In Pope John Paul's 1980 visit to the synagogue in Mainz, he called Jews the people of the God of the Old Covenant.
So this is after Vatican II. This is Pope John Paul.
Second?
Yes, John Paul II.
I remember.
JP 11 if you're from Somalia.
I'm not.
I'm going to go with John Paul II. I'm sorry. Either you got that.
That is funny.
But those who got it thought it was funny. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The will of God of the old covenant, which has never been abrogated by God. Romans 11:29. For the gifts and calling of God are irrevocable.
So John Paul points out, God doesn't make a deal and back out on it. Go on.
In 1997, John Paul II again affirmed the Jews' covenantal status. This people continues in spite of everything to be the people of the covenant, and despite human infidelity, the Lord is faithful.
So this is basically God is what John Paul said multiple times, and he uses Christians' text for it, scripture for it, is our covenant with the Jewish people is permanent. Period. It's permanent. Please continue.
So would that reverse?
Where?
Would that reverse what Vatican II said?
No, Vatican II also said it's permanent. Pre-Vatican II, which is when Pius was when they were saying we've been replaced. Okay? Vatican II changes 1,500 years of Catholic theology. Okay? Then you have you have 1965. In the 40s you have Pius. In 1965 you have Vatican II. In the 80s and 90s you have JP11. Go ahead. Continue. You're going to use that.
That is so.
Later became Pope Benedict XVI. Wrote in his 1999 note, many religions, one covenant. The Sinai Mosaic covenant is indeed superseded.
So John Paul dies, right? Who becomes the Pope? Pope Benedict. If you're not sure who he was, he's the one who looked like the evil emperor from Star Wars.
He's the one that mysteriously retired.
Mysteriously retired.
No one to ever retire.
Right. They did a movie about it. I never saw the movie, but I know that there's a movie of two popes about him. So, and what does he say? He says the Sinai covenant is superseded. So he's trying to go back pre-Vatican II. He also allowed things like the Triduum Mass, which calls for the perfidious Jews. But continue. So he does that in the 90s. So we have Vatican II, right? Over here, we're pre-Vatican II. Pius says that Jews basically should be dead. Vatican II, we're related. The covenant has not been broken. John Paul, the covenant has definitely not been broken. Jews are chosen people. Benedict, oh, no, they're not. Okay? And then we're going to have another pope. Go on.
In 2013, Pope Francis wrote, we hold the Jewish people in special regard because their covenant with God has never been revoked. For the gifts and the call of God are irrevocable.
Okay, so we've gone back with Benedict, and then Francis says, no. We're not going back to that. Okay? Go on. Finish last one.
For many supersessionists,
I told you, it's hard to say. Supersessionists.
their replacement theology is based upon their own lack of internal faith and inability to hold seemingly conflicting truths. In their minds, since the ancient Jews quote-unquote killed Christ, all Jews should have been destroyed by God for the crime of deicide. The fact that
The Jews can
survive, let alone thrive, can only mean for these men without real faith that Jews are affiliated with the devil.
And therefore should be killed. Okay? This is one of the roots of anti-Semitism. Again, I was talking with Pastor Jack Hibbs today about this, and he calls them fake Christians. Okay? In other words, if you're a real Christian, you've accepted Jesus on your heart, and so everything is about love. When an actual Christian comes to you and says, hey, I want to convert you, they're doing it out of love. They want you to be in heaven with them, and that is their theology. You can only get to heaven through Jesus. But most of these guys, these anti-Semites, are not actual Christians. This is a major pastor who called them fake Christians because they're doing it more from a place of hate and fear because they don't have faith and they don't understand. They can't wrestle with seemingly contradiction. They see that in theory the Jews killed Jesus, which is not possible actually, and therefore the Jews should be dead because they killed God. They're not, therefore they must be aligned with Satan, otherwise they would be destroyed by God, and that's not powerful enough to keep them. Therefore our job, as these fake Christians will say, is to persecute, kill the Jew. That's where you get Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Hodge twins, all these people. They don't have, as this is from Pastor Hibbs, they don't have real faith. They're not real Christians, which is an interesting statement.
Well, the logic's inconsistent. So, like, if we supposedly killed Jesus, well, then how was he going to die for their sins?
But they don't go to that.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And then why? Where's the current pope on this?
Who knows?
Because it seems like
He thinks Obama was God.
that's frightening. So, but the political back and forth, we see the Pope Benedict try to go back. It's going like this.
And we've been moving forward with the exception of Benedict. I'm very concerned about this Pope because this Pope has already said Islam is a religion of peace and we welcome them together. Forgetting the fact, how many of you have been to the Vatican? Okay, I've never been blessed to go, but my understanding is around the Vatican, there's a really big wall, right?
Oh, yeah.
And what's that wall for? To keep out the Muslims.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? But this Pope is now welcoming that. So we don't really know where he stands other than he's going to want everybody to be nice so he can make more money. That's the only guess. Yeah, more.
My question is
Loudly.
So you're talking about, you're relating Christianity only to the dogma of Catholicism, whereas there is a whole lot of other sects of Christianity that
Correct.
don't follow the Catholic Church at all and have their own.
Correct.
various-
But replacement theology is pretty much part of Catholic Church, not evangelical Christianity or Protestant Christianity. Supersessionism is really much more part of the traditional Catholic Church. As I said, I was talking to this pastor today. He doesn't believe in replacement theology. He sees the text, it says what it says, it's an everlasting covenant, and God doesn't change his deal. That's how they look at it. The church, the Catholic Church, on the other hand, is the one that's been doing this. That's why.
But there's a lot of anti-Semitism that comes out of particularly the right-wing parts of
There's a lot of anti-Semitism that comes out of those. And again, it's as this pastor would say, they really haven't taken Jesus on their heart. Because if they had, they wouldn't have that issue. Make sense? Yeah, Joel, loudly.
This is also the original bloodline.
Yeah.
So that's just been over and over again used to create other.
I'm so glad you brought that up because we have anti-Semitism, a history of hate. Thank you for telling. Who wants to speak?
I would like to do that.
Go.
Anti-Semitism, a history of hate. Early Christianity. The followers of Jesus in the first century were called Jewish Christians. These followers were apocalyptic in their attitudes and preaching, believing that the world would be coming to an end, and the only form of salvation would be the acceptance of Jesus as the Messiah. Known as the apostolic age. Thank you. These early formation years are from the death of Jesus in 33 CE until the death of the last of his apostles, John in Anatolia, in approximately 100 CE.
Okay, so they're known as Jewish Christians at that point. Please continue. Nice and loudly.
The early followers of Jesus immediately during the
Put on your pastor watch. Put on that bad heel. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, apostolic. Here, help me out. Apostolic age. Got me all crazy now. Were no doubt persecuted by the normative Jewish establishment of the time. Some, such as Ebionites, believed in the messianic qualities of Jesus while rejecting the concept of a virgin birth. The preaching of the followers of Jesus were directed towards Jews at this time and not Gentile or pagan populations. This changes with Saul of Tarsus, a persecutor of early Jewish Christians, who then has a vision of the dead Jesus and becomes known as Paul the Apostle, Book of Acts. He then takes it upon himself to become the apostle to the Gentiles and opens up the preaching of Jesus to the non-Jewish world.
So who is Saul? Saul's this guy who never knew Jesus. Okay? But he creates the church. He never knew Jesus. He's dead.
Aren't we 100 years later?
He never meets Jesus, but he meets the ghost of Jesus walking on the road.
This sounds familiar.
And and so he becomes the real preacher of the gospel and the preacher of early Christianity. Changes his name from Saul to Paul. Okay? From Shavuot to so please continue.
In their insistence on Jesus as Messiah, in combination with their rejection of the mainstream Jewish establishment, caused innate conflict. This was magnified with the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE. The Christian sect said this was because of a rejection of Jesus, while many in the traditional, little delay here, mainstream blamed it on the baseless hatred between Jews that was caused by the followers of Jesus.
So it says in the Gemara and the Talmud, it says the Second Temple is destroyed because of baseless hatred between Jews. The early Christians say, the early Christians say, no, the temple was destroyed because you didn't accept Jesus. Okay? They're trying to use to prove their theology. Continue.
The baseless hatred and gossip, which is discussed in the Talmud, Bavli Yoma Arafin, is rooted in the attitudes between Jewish groups of the time, and is manifest in the relationship between the Jewish establishment and the Jewish Christian. The establishment is devastated with the destruction of the temple and takes it out on the troublemakers of Jewish Christians. Conversely, the early Christians blamed the corruption of the Jewish establishment and their rejection of the Messiah. This becomes manifest in the words of what become the gospel: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
The gospel literally means good news, and the idea is to pass the good news. So I'm going to skip this section on the gospels and give you a synopsis of it, maybe even to a tune. So the gospels are about, first of all, they're written anywhere between 50 and 150 years after Jesus dies. Okay? So the Gospel of, as an example, if you read the Gospel of Mark, it's not written by Mark. It's as if your grandchildren heard me teach about something Rabbi Shochet taught, and they called it the Gospel of Rabbi Shochet. Okay? So the guys who write the Gospels aren't under their name, actually aren't the guys who wrote the Gospel. John didn't write John, Luke didn't write Luke, Mark didn't write Mark, Matthew didn't write Matthew. Okay? They did not. Okay, that's the first thing to understand. Second thing to understand is that it's written by people who clearly do not even understand Judaism. So we know they're not Jewish. How do we know? How many of you have been to a Shabbat in your entire life? Why didn't I see you last Friday? Anyhow, so all right, no, so right. I have a question. Do we do bread first or wine first?
Why?
Always, right?
Why?
So why does the Gospels, 3 of the 4 of them, say that Jesus is doing service and he's having the bread first? Because they don't know. They weren't there, and they're not Jewish, and they don't know our tradition. There are a number of examples like that. So the Gospels are actually written afterwards, and in a great way, too, as a polemic against the Jewish establishment at the time, which is persecuting the early Christians. Because it's like, Messiah, you know, you're hurting our people. Okay? So these Gospels, there's problems with them. Another problem with the Gospel. So there are 3 festivals you are commanded to go back to Jerusalem for. And I'm talking about at the time of Jesus. Right? Passover, Sukkot, and Shavuot. They say in the Gospels this was a spring festival that he was coming back for, and that the people had already cut palm fronds and throw the palm fronds on the ground. When do we have palm fronds? Did we do that at Passover?
Sukkot.
No, we have Sukkot. So they wanted to be able to entice more pagans as well, so it becomes a spring ritual as opposed to a fall ritual. Either Jesus went back in the fall for Sukkot, or they're just making up the palm fronds. One way or the other, it couldn't be. He would not have come back for Passover and have palm fronds. Right? It's not a. Does everyone get that?
Yeah.
Moreover, whether it's Passover, Sukkot, whatever it is, if it's a festival, can you have what's the first day of a festival? What happens? What do you do the first day, 2 days of a festival? Do you work? You don't work, right? You're not allowed to work, are you? Okay, can you go to court? No, right? If that's the case, then it's impossible for them to have had a court, a Jewish court, on those first 2 days, because we don't have court. It's the equivalent of me coming in and saying, "Hey, Eileen, guess what? I beat a ticket. I went to court on Christmas Sunday, and I got off." And you say, why are you lying to me? There's no court on Christmas Sunday. It's the same thing. But again, that's not what the Gospels are about. That's not how they're written. So you need to kind of understand that first of all. So you've got these Gospels that are written as a polemic against Judaism and against the Jews of the time. We then have this whole concept of deicide. We would not have killed him because we could not have assembled. I am not saying, I want to be clear, I am not saying that there were not members of the Jewish establishment in cahoots with the Roman establishment to help Jesus get killed, because that's very probable. But it was not that the Jews that killed him. Could it have been Caiaphas or other ones? Yes. But it would not have been the Jewish, it would not have been the Jews as a people. Okay? We then get this whole idea that by the 4th century, we get this concept that the Jews are guilty of deicide, of killing God. I think it's St. John Chrysostom, is that right? Yeah, St. John, Archbishop of Constantinople in the 4th, 5th century. Okay? This becomes a foundation stone for all of anti-Semitism. Why? Because the idea, again, is they killed God, therefore they should have been punished and died. They weren't punished and killed, therefore they must have an ally. The only ally who could stand against God is Satan, the devil. Therefore, the Jews are related to Satan. This starts by the 4th century. This is then added by the time you get to something called the Vulgate, written by St. Jerome. The Vulgate's written in the 4th century as well, where it's a translation of the Torah. How many of us know Hebrew? How many of us read Hebrew? How many of us know that Hebrew goes from right to left? Okay, everyone eventually. In Hebrew, there's no vowels. So the word Quran and Karen are spelled the same way in the Torah. Except Quran means it's shown forth from his head. Karen means a horn. So even though Jerome translates it properly in every other place, in the Vulgate, when he gets to the place of Moses coming down from Mount Sinai, he says that Moses has horns. Okay? We've now combined that we have horns and we killed God. So they're setting it up that we are affiliated with the devil. This is by the 4th century, 5th century. So we're talking 1,600 years ago, right? That's how long. That translation of the Vulgate is the official Catholic Church translation of the Bible, the official church Bible until the 1970s. If you talk to anyone and they have their Catholic and they have their grandmother's Bible, it's the Vulgate. It will say the Jews have horns. Okay? So this all combines so that we are being associated with Satan. Let's turn to page 7.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
In the 70s and 80s, I remember a lot, especially in Westwood, there was a movement. Jews for Jesus.
Right. They're now called Messianic.
They were wearing
They're now called Messianic Jews. They rebranded.
Is this where they got their education from?
No, Messianic Jews are kind of a weird theology because Messianic Jews called Jesus that didn't go over so well, so it's now called Messianic Jews. There's a temple out here in Thousand Oaks that I think is a Messianic Jewish temple. It really doesn't make sense, and it's not that I disagree with it. Anyone who believes what they believe, God bless you. It intellectually doesn't make sense because if you're accepting the new covenant of Jesus on your part, it's to replace the other 613 mitzvot.
Right.
So why are you doing the other 613 mitzvot?
So are you really a Jew?
You're not. No, the moment you accept that Jesus was God, you're not a Jew. Okay. If you say Jesus was a prophet, Jesus was an elder, Jesus was an enlightened being, Jesus was a rabbi, great. But Jesus being God takes you out because we believe. We believe in perfect faith. There is one God, one absolute God, period, end of report, as opposed to the idea that this God can be in spiritual or physical form as well. The great and easiest comparison to understand Christian theology is their traditional belief is think of God as H2O, and it could be in water, ice, or steam. It could be in the Father, the Son, or the Holy Spirit. That's the easiest way to understand Christian theology for people who haven't really studied. Okay, and you grew up in that. Would you agree that's a pretty easy and good way of understanding? All right, then we get to something called the blood libel on page 7. Who wants to read the blood libel loudly? Go loudly.
The blood libel. Using human blood in any way is specifically prohibited throughout the Torah, especially in the book of Leviticus, chapter 3, 7, 17, among other chapters. This prohibition is one of the reasons meat must be salted on a slanted table in order to be kosher.
So everyone knows that kosher meat is always salty?
Yeah.
Hey, does anyone know how you kosher meat? It's got to be slaughtered in a certain way. It's got to be on a plank it's got to be rinsed off, and then it's got to be drained by putting salt on top to drain all the blood off as it's rinsed off. We can't have blood. Kosher salt, and why I can't have steak tartare.
Now, could that have
For the kosher
also
salt.
been that was a healthier way to make sure you didn't get disease?
That's backing into it. It's there because for a lot of reasons, of which that may be one, but the primary reason is we're told, and this is, remember, that's rabbinic in terms of drawing off the salt, but it's Torah that says, in the Torah, this isn't rabbinic, you can't have blood.
Right.
Okay? Not allowed to have blood. One of the other reasons is, what's the word for blood? Does anyone remember in Hebrew? Say it loudly, Randy. Dam. What's the name of the first human being? Adam. Okay? It's the blood is sacred. It's very holy and sacred, and so we're very careful. By the way, how many of you understand about blood, what the research in the last 20 years has been done about blood in terms of amazing studies that if you take the blood out of someone and put it here and do certain experiments with it to change the blood, how it acts, it actually changes things inside the person and vice versa. So there's still a connection. There's something very sacred. So we don't need blood. So can I have blood in anything? No. Please continue. Go.
Human sacrifice is specifically forbidden throughout the Hebrew Scriptures, including Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Jeremiah, Kings, and more. It is something that is clearly stated to separate the Jews from the pagans. Jude 12:31, 2 Kings 16.
Lovely.
And is a reason for excommunication, punishment, and even the death.
Okay, Judaism says you can't have blood and you can't do a human sacrifice. With me? Go on. And yet,
Socrates Scholasticus, the 5th century church historian reports that Jews in a drunken folly found a Christian child on a cross in mockery of the death of Christ and scoured him until he died.
could we have done that? No. Go on. Because it's going to get worse. Go on.
In 1144, in Norwich, England, a boy named William was found.
I'm going to tell this story very quickly, make it easier. In 1144 in Norwich, England, Passover and Easter are often very close to each other. 1144 in Norwich, England, a boy disappears. It was the first time there are a number of these in that part of the world. And what happens is the local priest says, well, you know why, don't you? Because those Jews, for Passover, they have to get the blood of a Christian boy and make it into their matzah. This is called the blood libel, blaming the death of a non-Jew on the Jewish people. Could we have blood in our matzah? No. Can we sacrifice a child? No. Does that stop the priest? No. And do most of the people, are they able to read the Bible? No. They just trust what their stupid priest tells them.
They can't read the Talmud.
They can't read it. I did a whole article about those misquotes with the Talmud.
It's pretty so Russian.
It's it's ridiculous. So this becomes known as the blood libel, specifically that we are a people who use blood in our matzah. Here's your problem with all of that. It obviously is not true, but it then gets extended. Anytime we are being blamed for the death of others, okay, that's become known as the blood libel. Joel, please continue reading at the top of page 8.
Perpetuation of the church, the acceptance by the English government as truth, and the popularity of folktales, along with the psychological need to persecute the Jews for deicide, it becomes an accepted truth throughout Europe that by the Middle Ages that Jews make matzah with the blood of Christian children.
Okay, and then we just talked the next session on the horns, the idea of Karen versus Quran. How many of you either have been asked or know people who were asked, can I see your horns?
Sure. Seen it a long time ago.
Okay.
I had someone feel my head.
That's because they liked you. It had nothing to do with the horns.
You skipped.
Wait, hold on a second. Was she cute?
No, in the part you skipped, all the literature of the time.
Let's get it together. Come on. It's not enough better. Go ahead, draw.
With Chaucer and Canterbury Tales and Marlowe, it's in everything.
It's in everything.
Everything that people are reading, it's just pounding it that this is normal.
This is just not true. So, all right, hold on. We got too many conversations going on, and we can't. Okay, say it again, Josh, very loudly.
I said that they in Canterbury Tales and in the writings of Marlowe, which is all the basic, like the art of the time, the literature of the time, all the stories are solidifying that this is normal. We do blood libel, we have horns. It's like that's a chair. This is what it's the facts.
And that becomes accepted, right? And it still is accepted. Now, where do we really see this codified? If you turn to the top of page 9, this is the Michelangelo statue of Moses, and you will see in it horns coming out. Okay? So
I saw it in person.
these are horns. Okay?
My wife and I were the only ones that took a cab to go see it in person.
It's
San Pietro in Mendoza.
and this is what they do, right? All right? It's a real problem. So now it's that Jew hatred is pervasive because we are associated with drinking blood, killing children, having horns. Now, what else encourages the anti-Semitism? Primary value in Judaism is our children should be better educated than us, right? Primary value. We want them to do better. That's not always true. That is a Jewish value. Some other cultures true, but not always true. And so what happens? Jews learn mathematics, they learn logic at a younger age. So what happens through that process? Over here, you got those 3 noblemen, right? And they have all the property, but they're ignoramuses, right? Over here, we have our peasants who are leasing land from the noblemen. Eileen is the Jew who understands accounting. So she's going and she's collecting from all us peasants, and she's giving the money to the noblemen. She's hated by the peasants because she's collecting the money from them. She's hated by the noblemen because they don't even know if they're being cheated or not. And so we become the middle class. We become the merchant class often. If it's a city, we become a merchant class, which is we're learning the skills that you can make, that you can do. We're artists, we're artisans, we're accountants, we're doing bookkeeping, we're doing all these kind of middle class type of things. And as a result, we become hated on both sides. Joel, go ahead.
We also did that.
Loudly.
We also worked in those industries or whatever you want to call it, those sectors, because we weren't allowed to work anywhere else either.
We couldn't own property.
We couldn't own property. Plus, they couldn't have usury, so they used us to do that, collect that instead. So it was like a giant circle to get them.
Yeah, and why not? Because we're the children of Satan. And if you look at all that, by the way, we told them at the point we're not allowed in Europe to own land. Do you know who gave us the opportunity to own land? Napoleon. Okay? And part of the reason is Napoleon was walking by a synagogue with one of his generals who was Jewish. And he heard the prayers and he said to the general, what is it that they're praying for? And the general said, they are praying to be able to return to their native homeland of Israel and Zion. And Napoleon paused and said, wait, that's 1,700 years ago. And they're still praying every day for this? He goes, yes. He goes, they will certainly get it someday. And I need to honor these people. And so he allowed us to start owning property. Okay, before that, Jews could not own property in Europe. We were not allowed to own property. Okay?
Mike, did you ever read a book called Black Redneck and White Liberals?
No, but I feel like I live it sometimes.
There's a whole section on middlemen, which includes the Jews and the Armenians, other groups that have been subject to.
Loudly.
There's a really good chapter in this book called Black Rednecks and White Liberals by a Yale professor named Thomas Sowell that I've read, and there is a really good section that talks about, what are the causes of anti-Semitism, and it compares the Jewish experience to other groups like the Armenians, who also found themselves having to become middlemen in European society, and the hate that grew up out of that. It's a very good book. I recommend it highly.
And we're hated. So this happens, right? We're hated over and over, and we're the outsider. Okay? We are the outsider. We celebrate Sabbath a different day. We eat different food. We celebrate different holidays, right? We do our burials differently. We're different. Traditionally we have payas, right? We keep our heads covered. We're different. And so we're an outsider, and that just adds to the anti-Semitism that happens. Who would like to turn to page 10? Okay, so all these things are combining so that there's this hatred for 2,000 years. But then everything changes with the Shoah, with the Holocaust. Who wants to start reading on page 10, where it says the Holocaust and its temporary effect? Who wants to read loudly? Come on. Go, loudly.
Holocaust and its temporary effect. When it becomes clear at the end of World War II
That's World War 11. Go ahead.
that the Nazis
He's not
I'm
Elon,
sorry,
He's not,
it's just-
Omar,
that is
he's
not
not Elon Omar, whatever.
I just want to see if he was educated. Go ahead.
that the Nazis systematically killed 6 million Jews for no political or economic gain. The world feels guilty that they did nothing to stop it. Many survivors have more hatred for the Allies than the Nazis.
Warren and I were talking about this earlier. Go on.
The Allies would fly over the death camps on their way to bomb railway stations, but never bomb the crematoriums. The realization of the world that they had allowed the horrors of the death camps to happen leads to a temporary acceptance of Jews and to the creation of a state of Israel in 1948. This guilt only lasts through the generation that survived the Holocaust. As people, including Jews, start to no longer have an emotional relationship with the Holocaust, the guilt dissipates.
You can't cure 1,700 years of Jew hatred with one generation. It can't be done. Okay? It's literally in the mother's milk. And so the Holocaust happens, but no one wants to say, oh, you know, they should have killed more right after the Holocaust. And so for a brief period of time, really a unique period of time in human history, there is not overt anti-Semitism. But is it still there? Absolutely. But it's not overt. That's the time everyone out here right now grew up in. Yeah, go ahead.
Mike, are you familiar with there's a body of thought among Jews that says that it's actually ordained kind of in the Torah that anti-Semitism is sort of created by God, which I personally don't believe, and that it exists so that Jews, it causes us to stay together to fight the other.
Yeah, that is a common philosophy. Your dad loves making the quote: "When it's hard to be Jewish, it's easy to be a Jew. When it's easy to be Jewish, it's hard to be a Jew." Okay, and your dad loves it because there's another theology which I really disagree with, which is that the Holocaust happened because the 10 plagues were actually not for the Egyptians but were for the Hebrews, because they had adopted Egyptian gods, the Egyptian deities, and so each of those plagues takes out a different Egyptian deity. And because they were so stubborn, they still didn't believe in God. He had to kill the firstborn of the Egyptians, and that this is the karma for that. That them and all their descendants would have equaled 6 million. I don't buy into that either. I don't really buy I mean, look, do I believe that anti-Semitism is created by God? I do not. I do not. It's a blood, exactly. It's all a blood libel, and I just don't buy into it. It just doesn't make sense to me. God doesn't create evil. God gives the space for evil to exist. There's a qualitative difference between those two statements. Okay?
Can I ask you a quick?
Yeah, go.
I don't understand this first part here. The Nazis systematically killed 6 million Jews, and you say for no political or economic gain. But that's what Hitler based.
No, he bases it because he wants them dead. They don't get, the Holocaust cost Germany more money than they got.
But it was for political reasons. That's how he gained.
But it's not. So typically, when you go to war, right? You're going to war for land, for power, for money, things like that. Resources.
But he stole from all of the Jews.
But he got nothing in comparison to what it cost him. I mean, as he said, as Joel just said, he lost the war because of concentration camps. Because of
right. No, because he was evil. It's evil.
When he wrote Mein Kampf, the whole philosophy is centered around Judaism, and there's no real reason for it outside of just hatred. That's what makes the Holocaust unique. Any other attempted genocide outside of the Holocaust has always been for land, for this. So that's what makes the Holocaust unique, and that's why you can only call the Holocaust what happened to Jews really a true genocide. The only Holocaust. An
attempt to genocide.
That actually only happened because he did it out of hatred. They all got together, and their whole idea was we have to solve the Jewish question. And so, to solve the Jewish question, because the Grand Mufti and the British mandate back then was like, we're not letting anybody in, even though Jews were starting to immigrate before then, and pogroms were happening. And
so the whole Holocaust, there is no benefit to them.
No.
They don't get land, they don't get money, they don't get power. It costs them a lot of money. It costs them all sorts of
Everything
things.
that they earn from it is basically plunder. It's not, that wasn't the goal. They took it because they could.
But that's
what was
different.
What was Hitler's motivation besides hating Jews and he was doing it to gain political.
Okay, so the
advantage.
exact same motivation as Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes, and the Hodgkins, which is, since I know there's already an underlying hatred for Jews, I'm going to capitalize on that so I can become personally powerful.
Hitler penned a letter in 1919, 6 years before Mein Kampf, 20 years before, basically, 24 years, 14 years before he became chancellor. And the letter, all the letter really said is, we must kill all the Jews. For Germany to survive, all the Jews must be killed. That's all. The letter says that basically verbatim. It's in the Holocaust. It's in the Museum of Tolerance.
The other thing, though,
So his motivation was pure hatred, and he blamed the economic ills that Germany faced, the hunger, invasion, the hyperinflation, on the pervasiveness of the Jewish influence on institutions. When really it was the war reparations, levied against Germany for the terrible things they did in World War I.
All right, let's keep moving on.
Wait, one last thing. But he also, if I'm not mistaken, killed 6 million other people.
Not 6, but
They
you killed
said
other
12
people.
million.
Gypsies.
Yeah, we're definitely,
The 6 million number, that's what they have as written proof. Every year in Europe, throughout Europe, they find graves of God knows who. That 6 million number is not, it's what we can prove.
It's the numbers list. Okay, let's continue on, because now we're past. Oh, sorry, this is ridiculous. That's exactly what we should be doing. Let's learn about this. So now what happens is after the Holocaust, Israel happens. Now Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, the former chief rabbi of England, had a great teaching. I recommend this to everyone. It's a 5-minute video. You can go on YouTube. And the idea is anti-Semitism. It's a virus that mutates. Throughout most of history in the Middle Ages, they hated us for our religion, Jesus, etc. By the time you get into 18th and 19th century, they hate us for our culture, for what we're doing as the merchant class, as the artistic class, etc. But once you get into the 20th century, that hatred, it was still the same when it was hatred for religion, and that was hatred for culture, but it still was a hatred against Jews. By the time you get into the 20th century, it mutates again to a hatred for our nation. And anti-Semitism becomes anti-Israel. If you are Alan Dershowitz, how many of you listened to the Alan Dershowitz?
It was amazing, and it was amazing.
It like that? Okay. Dershowitz makes a great comment. He says there's no such thing as pro-Palestinian because the Palestinians have never wanted a state. They've turned it down in 1937, 1947, 1948, 1951, 1955, 1967, 1973, 2001, 2000, 2005, all these different times. They don't want a state. They've never wanted a state. Arabs have never wanted a state of Palestine. That's the history. That's reality. Okay, they've turned it down every single time. There's no such thing as a pro-Palestinian. But it's a pro-Palestinian is someone who's an anti-Semite. Period. And they're using that as an excuse. Zionism wants to build something. Pro-Palestinian just wants to destroy Israel. That's its only purpose. And so this was Dershowitz's point, and I thought, look, I love spending time with him. I don't know how much you guys like to talk, but I love having the conversation with him. Yeah, Joel.
So talking about how anti-Semitism is like a chameleon and it adapts. We're seeing it happen right now with people like Dave Smith.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to
Dan Balzeri.
Let's bring that up again once we go a little bit more about anti-Israel. Who wants to read on top of page 11? Someone. And it's great when you confront with the actual facts of someone who says they're pro-Palestinian. It's like, do you realize there's no such thing as Palestine? Do you realize that all the things like
there's no such thing as Palestinian.
Never been a country paying a stamp of currency or language, culture, or anything else. Go on. Read the top of page. I think you were reading.
I'm reading?
I guess because the lights on. Page 11.
Go, Randy.
Top of page 11. Orlando volunteered you.
Thank you, Orlando. As the guilt dissipates and it becomes unfashionable to be anti-Semitic or racist of any sort, the inbred hatred of the Jew for 2,000 years becomes manifest as being anti-Israel. Israel has never started a war in the Middle East. In 1948, Israel is attacked by Egypt, Syria, Transjordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, and Yemen. 14 conflicts are initiated by the Arabs between 1951 and 1956.
5 years, 14 wars. Go on.
Jordan and Syria attack in 1956 in the Sinai War. 1967, Six-Day War. Egypt, Syria, and Jordan attack Israel. 1967 to 1970.
Yes, but they'd already been attacked. So, and the Talmud, it says if you
What
know
was the
someone's
question?
going to kill you, go out and do it first. Go on.
The War of Attrition. Israel is attacked by Egypt, Syria, Jordan, PLO, and USSR. The Yom Kippur War, 1973.
During the month of Ramadan. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Israel is attacked on Yom Kippur by Egypt, Syria, Jordan, PLO in Lebanon. 1982, Lebanon War. Israel is attacked by PLO, Muslim Lebanon, and Syria. Israel eventually responds to guerrilla attacks by going into Lebanon and then, after winning, backs away to let the Lebanese handle their own internal politics. Wait, this sounds familiar. First Intifada, 1987 to 1993, Israel is attacked by Hezbollah through Lebanon and Syria. Second Intifada, 2000 to 2005, Israel is attacked by Hezbollah and Palestinian terrorists through Syria, Lebanon, and Jordan. 2006, Hezbollah War, Israel is attacked by Hezbollah. 2008, Gaza War, Israel is attacked by Hamas.
After giving Gaza to them, having built an infrastructure and saying, go do it, self-determination.
And took every human and every bone out of Gaza. And they're still were attacked. 2008, Gaza War, Israel is attacked by Hamas. Operation Protective Edge, 2014, Israel is attacked by Hamas and Hezbollah. Israeli teenagers are kidnapped. Terror tunnels to kill Israeli non-military citizens.
Which then gets even, they realize that's a good way to do things, and so, or effective way for them, and so that even starts to go again on October 7th, 2023, and we all know what's been going on for the last 2.5 years. Not one of these were started by Israel. Not one of these in any way, shape, or form. Every one of these were started by these Arab sons of bitches, excuse my language. That's the reality. And anyone who doesn't look at that and see that and look at the actual history is buying into propaganda, most of which was created between 1919 and 1928 by what becomes the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay? You need to understand that the charter of the Muslim Brotherhood, the charter of Hamas, the charter of Hezbollah, the charter of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, which becomes the Palestinian Authority, says, and I quote, it's a verse from the Quran where it says, the day of judgment will not come until every Jew is killed, and those few left will hide between rocks and trees, and the tree will cry out, "O Abdullah, O Muslim, come and kill the Jew that is hiding behind me." This is from the Quran. It's a direct quote. Over 200 times, the Quran says, kill the Jew. And yet, understand something. When the Ayatollah took over Iran 47 years ago, it was not about, and he made no mention about, we need to take over Israel. What he said was, finally, we have a government from which to start going out through the world to create our worldwide caliphate of Sharia law. He didn't take it over because of Israel. He took it over because the goal, according to Quran, is to create a worldwide caliphate of Sharia law. That's the reality. If you don't believe that, read the damn text. Okay? I'm just going to go off on a side thing for a moment. Some of you know this, some of you do not. Currently before the California legislature, and it's been voted on unanimously by 2 different subcommittees, is what's called AB 2017. This bill proposes that there will be 2 Muslim holidays that will become official California holidays.
Unbelievable.
One has to do with celebrating the end of the month of conquests, all the times that the Muslims have won wars. The second one, which is even more disgusting, is called Eid al-Adha, and it is a holiday that they want to make an actual California state holiday, where the devout Muslim is commanded to throw rocks, throw stones at a wall to practice stoning Satan and his infidel army. By the way, that's all of us.
Yeah.
Okay? And where there's animal sacrifice. Over 50 million animals are killed every year on that one day. The state of California right now is looking at this to make this official holidays for California. There's problems with this besides the theology. Number one, there's no other religious holiday that's an official state of California. None. And by the way, if you think Christmas is not. Christmas is federal, and it's not a religious holiday. It was put into practice by President Grant at the behest of labor unions who wanted a family togetherness day. That's why Christmas is a federal holiday. There is no other holiday. Rosh Hashanah, Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, these are not holidays in the state of California. Yet this bill is up there to do it. Number two, here's a real problem. How many of you remember being in school? And so you're going to have Monday Memorial Day off. And what do the teachers do? They taught you all about Memorial Day because that's their obligation. And when it was President's Day, they taught you all about Washington and Lincoln. And when it was Labor Day, they taught you all about Labor Day. So what happens in California? If these two holidays become state holidays, that means the schools are all going to teach Muslim theology. Does anyone else see the problems with this?
Major problem.
Okay, this is truly dangerous.
It's sick.
But it's also part of this Chrislam unification, this partnership. And because these leftists are so crazy, the people who are on this side, and I shouldn't say leftists, these people who are on this side that are so insane that they think that they can partner with Muslims in doing this against the Jew and then against the Christian. So it's
worse, like corporate America, a lot of our companies, including one I'm affiliated with right now, there's no celebration of any Jewish holidays or festivals, but they have a Muslim celebration month, and they make a point of pointing out Ramadan to their employees and Eid al-Adha, and I find it very offensive, and I'm trying to deal with it in my company internally.
If you go on, how many of you
That's from DEI.
How many of you know about have a Google Calendar? Eid al-Adha is on it.
Yeah.
Just showed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was never there before.
Yeah. So all just showed up. Okay.
Where?
So this, if you have a Google Calendar, it actually shows up just like Christmas.
It's a holiday.
Yep. Yep. 50 million animals killed every year. 13 million in Bangladesh. 9 million in Pakistan. This is what happened. And they want to make this a California.
So what is
I'm sorry. Not in mine. I've removed it. So okay, we'll continue. Go on. Wait. Randy, keep going about anti-Semitism couched as anti-Israel. Hold on. I'm going to shine my light on them. That's not stopping them.
So the whole thing.
You need a brighter light.
Okay, so Randy, please continue as you go on with anti-Semitism is now couched as anti-Israel.
Anti-Semitism is couched as anti-Israel, despite the reality that Israel is a small country that is surrounded by enemies. As General Moshe Dayan once said, he could light a cigarette at one border of Israel and drive to the opposite border, and the cigarette would still be lit. Because of a combination of an inbred hatred of Jews for 2,000 years and the survival of Israel, anti-Semites take to condemning Israel as a bully nation.
You know what I find just so ironic that no one wants to think about? Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, the Hodgwoods, these Jake Shields, the Tape Brothers, these social influencers who are probably being paid by whomever, but whether they are or not, they sit there and they blame everything on Israel. What's ironic is they've got more followers than there are Jews on the planet.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I want to know, if I'm part of a Jewish cabal, I want to know where the heck my check is.
Yeah. I want my laser.
Yeah, you know? All right, please continue reading. Randy, keep going.
Golda Meir once said that if the Arabs all laid down their weapons, we would have peace the next day. But if the Jews laid down their weapons, there would be, God forbid, be no Israel the next day. She also famously said that we will have peace when Arab mothers love their children more than they hate us.
And that is the truth. Go on.
12. Oh, got to go to 12.
Yeah, the page
All
does
this pressure to move to change the page.
You're handling it
fast
already.
because there's so much.
Part of our culture.
You're doing well.
Oh, yeah.
There
There have been more condemnations in the United Nations against Israel than against all other countries of the world combined.
Including this blankety blank Francesca Albanese, who was the special whatever they call her, rapporteur for the United Nations, who was just honored by the government of Spain, who has blamed everything for 20 years on Jews. It's all the Jews. This is what the UN is not a United Nations. It's a group of countries that want to blame Israel and the Jews for everything. Go on, please.
United Nations General Assembly Resolution 3379, adopted by the UN in 1975, determines that Zionism is racism and racial discrimination. This becomes a foundation stone for modern anti-Israel, really anti-Semitic attitudes. Although 3379 was revoked by the UN in 1991 with Resolution 4686, the damage had already been done, and a new generation born in the 1970s and 1980s grew up believing that Israel was racist.
Okay, and which is the exact opposite of how many of you have been to Israel. Doesn't matter if you. So this is one of the stupidest quotes by any human being I've ever heard, by Candace Owens, which is, well, Israel's racist. It's apartheid. I mean, Muslims are forced to live in the Muslim quarter. You vacuous, stupid idiot. How many people in Israel and Jerusalem? There's a Muslim quarter, a Jewish quarter, Christian quarter, Armenian quarter. Are you forced to live there? No. That's just where the shops have been for 1,000 years. So it's like saying we go to Chinatown. 2,000. Well, no, not the Islam and Marina, but yes, forever. And so it's just, when we say Koreatown, is anyone Korean forced to live in Koreatown? Is anyone Chinese forced to live in Chinatown? No. People live in Israel, and Israeli Arabs are very, Israeli Christians, very, very positive. I want to show you some of the ways, so that gives you some of the stuff there. If we turn to page 13, we see some really interesting ads that have become so interesting. The top one is posted by the president of the Philadelphia NAACP, started by Jewish people, but it says, to learn who rules over you, simply find out who you're not allowed to criticize. Okay? BLM says that this must be true, so celebrities like Ice Cube repeatedly tweet out anti-Semitic comments and images. This is from Ice Cube's tweet, where he says, F the new normal until they fix the old normal. And the image says, all we have to do is stand up, and their little game is over. Again, the Jews on the back of blacks. Is that true? No. We actually started the NAACP. If you turn the page, you see the image, another type of propaganda being pieced out of ending white privilege, intersects ending Jewish privilege, and the most recent, the one that's so disturbing, on October 8th, this was put out by BLM. I Stand with Palestine, with a picture of the parachutes that came in and killed the people at Nobel Festival. These are not made up. These are in here so you can actually see the horror. I'm sorry, what?
To say they killed is an understatement.
It's yeah.
That picture of the paragliding was out October 8th.
Right. Yeah.
That was the next,
The
very
next day.
next day.
Yep. That's what we're talking about here. Okay. All right. Who wants to start reading? Because now we got this covenant that we've learned about that's everlasting, but we're also got this issue of what's going on in the hatred.
Should I bring up the examples area?
Yes, you can bring up that now,
So,
because that's more recent.
going back to the point of how anti-Semitism, Jew hate is a chameleon, what we're seeing right now is people like Dave Smith, Dan Balzerian, who are the social media influencers who are trash, like most of them anyway. They're claiming Jewish heritage to be able to spread Jew hate without seeking any ramifications.
So let me give an example, a very specific example.
Dan Balzerian just said he has 12% Jewish ancestry, which is bullshit. You're either a Jew or you're not. Dave Smith has two separate stories on how he's a Jew. It's either from one grandfather or another. If you AI search it, depending on what AI bot you use, it says his grandmother was a Holocaust survivor.
No, it doesn't. No, it only says his grandfather. Nowhere does he claim his
One
grandmother.
of the AI bots says his grandfather married his grandmother who was a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah, no, he's
all
never said that.
No, but this is AI. I'm telling you, AI. This is what AI is saying. It's all lies. There's no. If he can claim his lineage from his grandfather as a Jew, he's still not a Jew. He was never bar mitzvahed. He's not circumcised. He's not a Jew.
And let's put this in perspective, just to understand. So, how many of you know who Dave Smith is? Okay, Dave Smith is this guy who was an out-of-work comedian. Okay, he's an unemployable comedian, wannabe comedian, and so he claimed to Candace Owens, "I'm a Jew, so I can be your capo. I can say, look, all the bad things about Israel." He's not a Jew. He's an ignoramus. He knows nothing, and Candace Owens made him very big because she could say, "Oh, look, the Jew says Israel's bad. The Jew says it's all because of the Jews." And he's not. He's just an anti-Semite who is grifted, like most of these people. They're grifters, and that's what he's done. Let's continue because I'm going to get to Shavuot tonight. Okay. So who wants to start reading at the top of page 15?
All of this anti-Semitism
Loudly.
going on. How can we celebrate Shavuot with honesty and passion. Has God withdrawn his covenant? How can this all be happening, and why should we embrace Judaism and Torah?
Let's be honest. How many of you wrestled with that question? I'm the only one. Josh and I are the only ones, huh?
God withdrawn his covenant.
You know, how with all this going on, how can we say God still has a covenant? How can I celebrate Shavuot as the marriage of Judaism and Islam, or God forbid, Judaism and the Hebrew people, our people? And so, how do we do that? That's really a question we're supposed to wrestle with. We're not supposed to be blind faith. We're supposed to be clarity, have clear seeing. So let's explore this a little bit. Please continue reading.
Before going into Shavuot, let us look at a few passages from the book of Judges. The children of Israel did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord, served the Baalim, 12, and they forsook.
Forget the numbers, forgive me, it's just my copy.
The God of their fathers, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, and followed other gods. Of the gods of the peoples that were around about them, and worshipped them, and they provoked the Lord. And the Lord raised up judges, who saved them out of the hand of those that spoiled them. And yet they hearkened not unto their judges, for they went astray after other gods, and worshipped them. They turned aside quickly out of the way wherein their fathers walked, obeying the commandments of the Lord, but did not so. And when the Lord raised them up judges, then the Lord was with the judge, and saved them out of the hand of the enemies all of the days of the judge. For it repented the Lord because of the groaning by reason of them by reason of them that oppressed them and crushed them. But it came to pass, when the judge was dead, and they turned back and dealt more corruptly than their fathers, in following other gods to serve them and to worship them. They left nothing undone of their practices, nor their stubborn way. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel.
So this is the beginning of the book of Judges. It tells you what's going to happen throughout the book of Judges. And then it gives a bunch of examples. The children of Israel did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. They forgot the Lord their God. They served these other gods. Therefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against them. He gave them over to the hand of Cusham. And then the land had no rest for 40 years. People started doing it. It says, Othniel, the son of Nenaz, over and over, it's the same pattern. It happens repeatedly throughout the book of Judges. Whether it's Othniel, whether it's Gideon, whether it's Deborah, whether it's Samson. It's the same story over and over. Everything's good. The people assimilate. They do what is evil in the eyes of the Lord. God says, that's not okay. We have a covenant. You're not supposed to do this. It's like a marriage. You're supposed to be faithful. They still keep doing it. So God sends someone out to go to war with them. They get their butts kicked. They start whining and complaining. When they whine and complain enough and say, God, we need to return back to you, he sends a judge, Deborah, Samson, whoever. That judge leads them in the war. They get back, so everything's good. They've got their land. Everything's good. The judge dies, and what happens? And the people did what was evil in the eyes of the Lord. Wash, rinse, repeat. Over and over and over. This is the theme of the book of Judges. But part of that means that God forgives us every time. It's as if a husband had an affair or a wife had an affair, and the husband says, it's not okay. Wife realizes that's a really bad idea. She comes back begging, saying, I'm sorry, husband, I love you, and it was a big mistake to go do whatever I was doing. And the husband says, I love you too, come on back in. And he keeps forgiving. And she keeps doing it over and over and over. That's how much God loves us, that he keeps forgiving us every single time. Someone please turn to page 16. And this is the issue. We continually break the covenant. It gets bad. We pray for forgiveness. God forgives. And like a spouse that keeps cheating, realize how much they miss their loved one, and we are accepted back into the covenant of marriage. This is what happens throughout us. Okay? We break God's heart with the golden calf. As soon as we get the ketubah, we go and have an affair. When do we make it back up? When God gives us the second set of 10 commandments. When does that happen? On the 10th day of the month of Tishrei, Yom Kippur. Okay? So that's why Yom Kippur is such a happy day. One of the reasons. And so God constantly keeps forgiving us. Make sense? Who wants to start reading where it says the ultimate wedding, God and Israel? Somebody. Barry was just
the ultimate.
Orlando just picks people. Do you?
Huh? Okay, the ultimate wedding.
Orlando sends a light. That's how he knows. He sends a light.
God and Israel. We get engaged to God on Passover. The counting of the Omer is the yeah, I got that one. Period. Shavuot is our wedding night. We have a brief honeymoon, a betrayal, a forgiveness, and recapitulation. I got it. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Randy. Of our wedding vows and a second honeymoon. This happens collectively for the Jewish people, as well as individually for each of us who are willing to participate consciously in this partnership with God.
Please continue. This is about
the wedding night.
It's the wedding night. You get the. I just did a wedding last weekend. It's great. It was a Persian wedding. It was small. There were only about 300 people.
Small.
Small. It's tiny.
Wow.
The appetizers beforehand, you know, these food stations with the falafel, with the Angus beef steak, with the different foods, the sushi bar, which was basically a bar about as long as both those two sets of tables. This is all before the service. This is before we even have dinner. I have pictures if you want, because I also always wants me to take pictures. You know, the bride with the wedding veil that goes from here to that tree. That's not an exaggeration. Again, I have the picture. But is this joyous thing? It's a wedding. And what happens on a wedding? Right? What happens on the wedding? We read the ketubah, right? We get married, and we have yachud. We make love. That's the commandment. That's what has to happen. Literally, for a Jewish wedding, you need three things. A contract, that's the ketubah, the exchange of something valuable. That's the ring. With this ring, you're consecrated to me according to the laws of Moses in Israel. And making love, yachud, intimacy. That's our wedding night, Shavuot. That's what we're supposed to do, and which is why we study Tikkun Shavuot, the rectification of the evening of Shavuot, and we study the text because we're going to restudy the ketubah. So imagine, how many years you've been married?
46.
Okay, we're going to check with Carolyn to see if you're right.
45 years.
Somewhere between 40 and 50. Right? Somewhere between 40 and 50.
That many.
Somewhere in there. And so, wouldn't it be interesting if every year, instead of on your anniversary, going and having champagne and steak or whatever you're having, if you recapitulated your relationship of the last 45 years? This is when we met, and I fell in love with you here. I fell in love with you here. I wanted to marry you, Carolyn. I tolerated that, Alan. And then we had our kids, and you recapitulated your relationship. That would strengthen the relationship each year. So every year, we reread our ketubah and our history. That's what Shavuot is. Please continue reading.
The wedding night. There are three things for which man has destructive appetite. They are money, sex, and food.
Those are the three things, according to Rabbi Nachman, that we all have destructive appetites for. Human does. Shavuot
is a rectification for sex.
So
Rabbi Nachman, okay.
If you observe Shavuot, you don't have the desire to have your libido fed somewhere else where it shouldn't be fed.
Rabbi Nachman, Lakudi, Moran, okay, 1-5. This takes place on Shavuot, after the counting of the Omer. It is then that we are all fit and prepared to be vessels to accept God's influence. It is for this reason that Shavuot is also called Isra in the language of Mishnah. It is that time that one can hold Itzar and absorb God's influence.
So Yahud, which is when a couple makes love after the wedding. You're supposed to break the glass, not talk to anybody, go to a private chamber where you have a guardian, and that guardian stands there to make sure no one interrupts you as you have your favorite food, drink, and you make love.
Are they inside or outside?
No, they're inside. We're not watching.
They're on the inside.
So, and that's that time of intimacy is when you really are holding each other's souls and you really get it. Shavuot is the time that we can hold God and God can hold us. Please continue.
Kedusha Levi Derush Lepetach, our Levi Yitzhak of Burdichat. The day of his wedding, the day his heart rejoiced. Shirim.
That Song of Songs, where he's and this is talking about God. On Shavuot, God rejoices because it's his wedding too.
Tikkun Shavuot. In keeping with the custom of engaging in all-night Torah study, Rabbi Isaac Luria, a leading Kabbalist of the 16th century, arranged a special.
On the right. No, page 17.
Please forgive me. No, I'm still on the wrong way.
Page 17.
Yeah, I'm going the wrong way. I got to get back.
I wrote
to
this in English, not in Hebrew.
I know you did a good job. I'm trying to. Okay, I got it here. Okay, service for the evening of Shavuot. The Tikkun Leil Shavuot, rectification for Shavuot night, consists of experts from the beginning and end of each of the 24 books of Tanakh.
So hold on. This is the traditional text assembled by Luria of what we're supposed to study. Now, you go to most temples and they study, let's read the book of Ruth. Or they start talking about social action or whatever Jewish teaching. This is actually the traditional text, and if you look at it, you're going to see why. And this is the order that it is in. Please continue.
Okay, including the reading in full of several key sections, such as the account. I got it. Where was I? Including the reading in full of several key sections, such as the account of the days of creation, the Exodus, the giving of the Ten Commandments, and the Shema.
So first, you read the first and last lines of every Torah portion. Okay? Some of it you read the whole portion. But that's the first thing. And then you read the first and last lines of every book of prophets and writings. Okay? It's like reading the Cliff Notes. Okay? Please continue.
And the 63 books of Mishnah, followed by the reading of Sefer Yetzirah.
Mystical book attributed to Father Abraham working as a creation.
The 613 commandments as enumerated by Maimonides. Yeah, I got it.
Barry, Rambam. It's easy.
Yeah. Excerpt from Zohar with the opening and concluding prayer. The whole reading is divided into 13 parts, after each of which a Kaddish de Rabbanan is recited when the Tikkun is studied with Minyan.
So 13. Why is 13 so important? In Jewish mysticism, we have what's called gematria, the numerical value of a word. The word ahava, which means love, the numerical value is 13. It's another hint that this is the ketubah. This is about the love between God and Israel. So you got all these books, starting with first and last of all these books, and first and last of all these books, and first and last of all these tractates, all these different things, all these different texts. Go on.
The entire text ends with the entire book of Shir HaSharim, Song of Songs,
which is a book of love intimacy. If you read an actual literal translation of the Shir HaSharim, Song of Songs, you will find that it is more intimate than the Kama Sutra. It is intense in terms. I used to tell students at Loyola, if you read Song of Songs, a literal translation to a girl, and she doesn't want to be with you, you ain't going to get laid. That's what I used to tell these college guys. They say, Rabbi, trust me, if you read the literal. And then what happens? What's the last thing?
Followed by the Sheva Berachot of a wedding ceremony.
That's the 7 blessings. Of the 7 blessings that we chant at a wedding.
All of Torah, written and oral, and all commentaries are part of the ever-growing ketubah between the bride of Israel and the groom of God.
Okay, so this is about reminding us of our ketubah. Now,
sexism? It's being sexist.
Excuse me?
Is it being sexist?
No, not sexist. We're part of it. Now, Ellen. So there you are, recapitulating the last somewhere between 40 and 50 years you've had with Carolyn. Okay, which is really interesting because I thought Carolyn was 27. So this is kind of problematic. She is kind of problematic. And when you're recapitulating it, have you ever had any tsuris in your life? Okay. You're going to go over that too, aren't you? Why? You survived it.
Why bring up the dirt?
Because you survived it and it became better as a result. Right? So, we had this. I'll give an example, right? If Alice and I were doing this, we would go through a certain 1.5-year period where we wanted to have a baby and she wasn't getting pregnant. And we did IVF. It didn't work the first time. And the second time she miscarried. And the third time, thank God, we got the twins. Right? It's reminding us of the tough times, too, and how our relationship has gotten stronger as a result. Make sense? So you both have raised teenagers, right? I'm sure at times there were challenges. Please tell me you had challenges. Yeah. Okay. And so if you're recapitulating, you're thinking, And we had these challenges when our kids were X number of years and they went through this. But thank God now they're good, right? So it's not just, when we had happy things here, everything was so hunky-dory here. It's also we had challenges and we got through them together. We need to remember that as we're doing Shavuot as well. Who wants to continue reading where it says as a harvest holiday? Because Shavuot is connected as a harvest holiday as well, as a summer holiday, spring holiday. Who wants to read? Come on. Somebody.
As a harvest holiday.
There we go.
What is textually connected in the Bible to the Feast of Shavuot is the season of the grain harvest, specifically of the wheat in the land of Israel. In ancient times, the grain harvest lasted 7 weeks. It was a season of gladness. It began with the harvesting of the barley. It began with the harvesting of the barley during Passover and ended with the harvesting of the wheat at Shavuot. Shavuot was thus the concluding festival of the grain harvest, just as the 8th day of Sukkot, Tabernacles, was the concluding festival of the food harvest. During the essence of the temple in Jerusalem, an offering of 2 loaves of bread from the wheat harvest was made on Shavuot. So
there's also a historical harvest reference to this holiday as well, and we have sweets because we also harvest. This is when what has happened by this time of year when Shavuot happens. The cows have had their baby calves, and what do we have? A lot of milk. So we have cheesecake. Francine, God bless Francine Marco. So those who don't know, Francine is her family actually were the founders of Schwartz's Bakery, and she makes the most amazing cheesecakes. Last week she made a lemon curd cheesecake. Oh my God! Yeah, it's really amazing. Okay, please. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Go ahead.
A wedding. God chooses us as betrothed, and we accept the betrothal on the first night of Passover. Our acceptance is the placing of the lamb's blood on the doorposts, physical action.
Okay, so God says, "I'm be with me." We're going to trust in you. We have faith in you. We're going to put the blood on the doorpost. We have faith in you because if it doesn't work out, we're all going to be killed the next day by the Egyptians. But we have faith that you're going to take care of it. Blood goes on. That's our acceptance of the betrothal, of the engagement. Go on.
We are engaged and prepare for the wedding during the counting of the Omer. At first, there is some trepidation, but once we get to the 33rd day, Lag BaOmer, both parties are committed and getting excited to get married.
Right? How many of you have had to do a wedding, either that you only remember or your kids or your grandkids, and when they first get engaged, it's kind of vague. We're going to get married, and then they start getting close, and they get closer, and now everyone's like, we get married, right? And they start planning, and then they finally hire the rabbi because that's less important than the party apparently. So they start planning, right? And they start doing all these things. As you're starting to get closer, it's like, wow, this is really going to be real. Go ahead, please continue.
We get married and agree to the ketubah on Shavuot. With a reading of the entire ketubah, just as we do at a wedding.
Traditionally, at a wedding, a Jewish wedding, the ketubah is outside the chuppah, and we read the ketubah. Okay, so this is the contract. By the way, if you're not sure what a ketubah is, it is the oldest document in Western culture that protects the rights of the woman. The groom is basically giving up everything to her. Okay, and so that anytime the groom acts out over the years, she can point to the ketubah and say, ah, 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 ah. Go on.
From Rabbi
Kalinimus Coleman Shapiro.
Thank you. The Rabbi of the Warsaw Ghetto on a teaching for Shavuot. I learned from my Holy Father-in-law of blessed memory, who repeated a teaching in the name of a tzaddik about the saying of the
sages. Perfectly righteous person.
That every person must say to himself, when will my deeds reach the level of my ancestors? He explained that to reach is also to touch. It is sufficient for your actions to touch upon theirs.
I can never reach my teacher's level. Can't do it. I'm telling you that with no false humility. I'm telling you that very simply. I will never reach the level of my teacher who's still alive, thank God, Rabbi Avraham Greenbaum, my teacher, Rabbi Elijah Shulchan, of blessed memory, my teacher, Rabbi Shlomo Schwartzy, of blessed memory. I will never reach their level. I won't. But I can touch it. Yeah, go ahead, loudly.
I have a question. So it it's interesting to me the theme of Shavuot being of a wedding. Think about when we talk about bringing in Shabbat, we talk about welcoming the Sabbath bride. What's the similarity? What's the difference in that imagery?
This is so we welcome the Sabbath bride every week.
Right.
Here we are making Yakud. We're redoing the wedding every year. That's a little bit different. She's still our bride all year, but now we're going to redo the wedding again. And I guess maybe one comparison would be we call Yom Kippur the Sabbath of Sabbaths. And on Yom Kippur, hopefully everyone makes tshuva during those 10 days of awesomeness. But the reality is we should be making tshuva, ideally, at least once a week, rather than letting it all build up for that 1 year and then doing it for that 1 week. Make sense? In the same way, Shavuot's the big one. You can hear and see the relationship between the word Shavuot in Hebrew and Shabbat.
Yes.
The same, there's a relationship with it. Okay, they're both related to the word Shev or seven. Okay, please continue.
Does Rev mean rebel?
Rebbe means rabbi, teacher.
This was taught by the Rebbe on Shavuot of June 12, 1940, in the midst of the greatest hell the Jewish people had ever known. It was his teachings like this that prompted the leaders of the Warsaw Ghetto to ultimately revolt, leading to the greatest defeat of the Nazis at that point, as the Jews stood up for themselves, their beliefs, and their faith.
So his teaching let us touch, not just reach for our ancestors, but touch. This is the man who, he was called the Pizzatz Rebbe. This is the man who was the holy leader of the Warsaw Ghetto Revolt. He didn't have to go to the ghetto, he chose to. And he chose to be with his people. And from all reports, he changed everything. There is a book, it's called Sacred Fire, Eish Kodesh. Eish Kodesh is the notes, the sermons by the Piazetzner Rabbi, let's call him Shapira, during his time of the Warsaw Ghetto. I can't read more than a couple pages, I start to sob. Not just because they're so powerful, but because when you put them in the context of when he's writing them, that he's writing all this in a time of the Warsaw Ghetto and what's going on in the Holocaust. It was his inspiration to say we need to at least reach for what our ancestors have done. Are we doing that today is a question we all need to ask as we approach Shavuot. Are we really stepping up the way that makes our ancestors proud? Because you haven't figured it out, we are in 1932 Germany, if not later. In the world, not just in one country. All right, who wants to read the very last paragraph? Who wants to read it? You do it. Go, Randy, go.
Jew hatred is a manifestation of evil, and the only directly affects us as a people when we have turned our back on the holy covenant with God.
Right? When we turn our back. It's a great line. Why did God turn his back on us in the Holocaust? The answer is God didn't turn his back on us. We turned our back on God as humanity. And we're doing it again right now. Please continue.
When we are true to that covenant, we are protected and safe. Even when there are challenges, God always returns to his relationship with the Jewish people. The Iron Dome or rockets are not our greatest weapons. Our partnership with God is the greatest alliance and the most powerful protection. This is the miracle that is at the root of the survival of the Jewish people for thousands of years. As Ben Gurion said, to be a realist in Israel, you must believe in miracles.
And we have a lot of miracles. So as we go through this time, is the covenant still in place? Yes. Is God going to take us back always? Yes. Do we screw up? Over and over and over. Don't we?
We're not perfect.
We're just stupid. Okay, we're foolish. Because we keep, it's one thing to make a different mistake. We keep making the same mistake. Go ahead, Joel.
This goes back to anti-Semitism. So Thomas Sowell was asked in an interview, probably like late 80s, early 90s. It's on YouTube. You can watch it. They were talking about Jews, and I forgot the interviewer who he was, but he asked Thomas Sowell, he said, how do we end anti-Semitism? And he said, basically he said, Jews need to fail. He says if they fail, then all the anti-Semitism ends.
Temporarily.
Temporary. That's what he was talking about. Because if you look, it's our history. You know, we've been, whatever position we've ever been in, today, whenever, in the future, we've always managed to thrive under circumstances where empires have fallen, other people have gone the way of the dodo, except for us. And he is right that if we fail, then we become like everybody else. I don't know what else to say it, but
and the response to that, I think it was Goldemeyer who said, given the choice between being dead and pitied or alive and hated, we will choose alive and hated.
Yeah, alive and hated.
But Thomas Sowell, if you ever get a chance,
He's the one who wrote the book you were talking about, right, Warren? Yeah. And here's what
him and Shelby Steele refused to be photographed with Candace Owens because they knew what she was as a grifter from the very, very, very beginning.
Yeah.
They would not tacitly give her any type of approval.
Yeah, I know that Dennis feel very bad about doing that.
We had
so we have an obligation, a privilege, and a blessing to step up and do what we need to do and be a light unto the nations. But if we're not a light within each other, it's a problem. So last week, as I said, I was blessed, and some of you heard it, to spend time with Alan Dershowitz, who is one of the great legal minds, and minds period, of the last, he's 87 years old. The guy's got the energy of a 40-year-old. But one of the things that I found so interesting is he has now dedicated the rest of his years to Jewish civil rights, to fighting against anti-Semitism, fighting against anti-Israel. That's why he left the Democratic Party, just for that one issue. And he was really interesting because he made a comment that, he made a lot of comments, but there are two that really strike me right now. One is he said that the Israeli reaction to October 7th was the result of 2,000 years. And we hear all these wanting to destroy Israel. They say, this is 2,000 years that they've been persecuted. No. He said, you know what, for 2,000 years, with the exception of things like Purim, we've taken the pogroms, we've taken all these things, and we've shut our mouths, and we haven't done anything, and it keeps happening. No more.
Never again.
Never again. So he said that this is the change, that we're not going to do that anymore, which is a change. His other thing that I thought was just really interesting is when he was talking about his commitment to Jewish civil rights. It's not as a Jew. It's as a civil libertarian. He said in the 1960s and 70s, I worked diligently for black civil rights because that's where the civil rights issue was. In the 90s, he said, I worked for gay rights because that's where the civil issue was. And any civil libertarian, doesn't matter what your politics are, what your theology is, right now, the battle for civil rights is the violation of Jewish rights. And so he's not fighting as a Jew, because he says himself he's a skeptical Jew. He is a lack of belief, but he believes in action. He's doing it as a civil libertarian of the recognition. Again, this is a great mind. As the recognition that the fight right now is the fight against anti-Semitism for the world. That is a fight we all have to take on. And, my house has been vandalized multiple times. The first time my house, this is when we were in Westlake, the first time my house was vandalized, they ripped off a mezuzah. I went out the next day to Shalom House and I bought a mezuzah. And if you come by our house at Hanukkah, just in case, you're supposed to put the candle, Hanukkah, in the window, right? Well, just in case you're not sure where I am, I got this big 8-foot blow-up cradle. Just in case you're not sure, here I am. And I'm not going to let myself or anyone else be bullied. And we need to fight in the right battles. I got a call, I was talking to Warren about this, I got a call a couple of weeks ago from a Jewish student at Westlake Village, at Westlake High School. His parents, he brought up the problems with his parents said, talk to the rabbi, because the rabbi is supposed to fix everything, right? And so he calls me and he tells me that he's taking AP Euro History class. How many of you took AP European history? Okay. And in this class, the teacher was saying that Israel is a colonizer. And showing that green and white map that was created by the Muslim Brotherhood. It took me weeks. I met with the principal. He was supposed to fix it. Talked to her. The principal doesn't know anything about this history. Showed him all of this. It was him and the head of social studies, and they said they would take care of it. I spoke to this student last week, and he said, well, she came in and she said, I'm no longer this year going to be teaching this map because, and I'm sorry if it offended any particular group of students here. She didn't say what should have been said, which is, this map is a lie. I am sorry I taught it. Here's the reality. And these are fights that we have to take on. I get these fights all the time. I was having a fight for the last week and a half with the College Board for something similar.
Propaganda.
But you know what? Because we have been silent for so long with the propaganda, we're way behind in that war. And that's why it's so important to step up and fight. Warren was actually at UC Berkeley. How many years ago was this? This was 2 years ago. And tell him what happened.
I'll show you a picture.
No. Just tell him. The picture's too small.
Okay. So I was at UC Berkeley. I was giving 2 speeches, a fellowship. I'm a permanent fellow of UC Berkeley. I was also giving a speech. I used to be the leader of student body government back in our day. So I was giving a speech to the student body senate for the first time in 40 years. And people were very moved by my speech at the fellowship, and they said, you need to go see what's going on campus. And I said, what do you mean? They said, go to the center of campus, go to the Sprawl Plaza, where free speech happened in the 1960s. So I go down there the next day, and across the main gate that you walk through to where the academic building started at UC Berkeley was a huge display by Students for Justice in Palestine, supported by Chinese students, collecting money and doing the accounting and helping them. And they had put chains and banners across the entire entrance. You couldn't go through. You had to pay a toll of $1, or you had to say, for even for Palestine to get through. And I was horrified, and I ended up where they encountered me. They thought I was trying to start something. These Palestinians came after me, and I saw some smart things, and I contacted the university police, told them who I was, and I identified some very specific things they were doing that were illegal. And the police came and helped me. We tore it down, and they threw it in the dumpster.
God bless you.
And then the next day, it was partially back up, and they had put up speakers, and they were playing these horrible fake AI-generated messages of children, women being killed and destroyed by these horrible Jews, blah blah blah. So I called the police again. I said, "Guess what? It's back. And by the way, they're violating the noise ordinance and they're disturbing the peace." And the same guy who ran UCPD at this point, I was directing the guy who ran the police. He said, "Thank you very much. We're coming back again." They came back again. We tore the whole thing down and destroyed it.
Including the speakers?
Everything. Gone, right? So the next day, I go to the administration and I draft a letter and I say, "Listen, this has been on for 14 days. Nobody did anything about it. I did something about it with your wonderful UC police force. I was not allowed in California Hall, where when I was a student leader, I used to have meetings with the chancellor. I wasn't allowed in. They were so scared to open the door. They took my paper. They never said thank you. Nobody ever acknowledged. The student newspaper, which is leftist, didn't publish. When I wrote lovely Governor Newsom, who in a movie I saw last night about Rabbi HERE, said, "Oh, there's wonderful things I'm doing to stop anti-Semitism at university," he dissed me also. And that was horrible. It was an absolutely horrible thing.
But all of us can do this. You just got to make the point. A couple of days ago, I'm coming back from a funeral at Sinai in Hollywood Hills, and I'm hungry because it's now mid-afternoon. So I decided to stop at the Ralph's on Hazeltine and Ventura. How many of you know that Ralph's? And it's got a whole big kosher section. And so I go up and I get some kosher food to go, and I come back down. Now that particular building is all Ralph's, but the bottom floor is all Ralph's parking lot. Okay? And you've got to go up an escalator, a glass escalator, up into the market, come back down the glass escalator, and there are 3 young people in scrubs. They say, Doctors Without Borders. And they say, do you know about Doctors Without Borders? We're here to raise money for them. I said, I do. Are you doctors? No, we're students. And we're raising money for Doctors Without Borders. I said, do you know that Doctors Without Borders is basically a front organization for the Council of American Islamic Relations of CARE? Are you aware of that? Do you realize what your opinion of the council? Well, we don't know. We're here for Doctors Without Borders. We're just students. So I got in the car and I said, you know what? This isn't right. Got out of the car, left my food in the car. It's okay. It was still hot when I got back. Went back up. Oh, and I said, do you have permission to be here? They said, yes, the manager knows us. Walked up, waited 10 minutes to get the manager. The manager comes out and I told him what's going on. I said, you have a kosher section. Do you really want an article about the idea that you're promoting CARE on your property? I didn't know that's what it was. I said, well, we got to take care of it. So we walk down. He says, I'm sorry, you need to leave. So they leave, or they're packing up. And I say, you know, where are you guys going to med school? Oh, we're not. I thought you said we were students. One of them says, well, I'm a student in Barcelona. This guy had as much a Spanish accent as I do. And probably knew as much Spanish. And I don't speak Spanish except for a few swear words. Okay? Because that's usually the first thing in any language, right? And then the other two said, well, we're not students. I said, well, you're not students. What do you do? Well, we work for the marketing company that does this for the organization. So they're being paid to raise money through the funnel of Doctors Without Borders to go to the Council of American Islamic Relations. It took me an extra 15 minutes in total. And I don't question, I haven't been back. The next day they may have been back. And if I go back next time, I actually have a funeral tomorrow. Oh, wait, no, it's out here. But next time I go by, I'm going to go by, and if it's they're there again, I'll go up to the manager and say, look, we had this conversation. So do I need to send someone to spot check it, or are you going to make sure it's not going to happen? Each of us have the opportunity to do that. Each of us have the opportunity to fight anti-Semitism. Each of us have the opportunity to say, you know, AB 2017 wants to make a holiday about animal sacrifice and stoning an official state holiday. Yeah. I wrote an article about that. Eileen's very involved with different Republican clubs. No one knew about it, did they? Totally unaware. Okay, totally, but everyone was totally unaware. So this is really important that each of us take the step of fighting that, because we're losing that war because we've been silent for so long.
How do we handle the issue with Jews who are, I consider, anti-Semites when they're protesting in favor of Hamas? And
we point out the realities, we educate them, we try to educate them, and we remember that a large portion of the Hebrews did not come out of Egypt with Moses. They chose to stay there. Yeah. Okay, and we remember that. We try to educate them, we try to show them, try to point it out. You know, if truth is light, we've just got to shine it on the darkness. And hopefully they will come out. Again, Pastor Jack Hiff made a great comment today when we were talking. He said, I don't try and fix anybody's misconceptions. I just quote the text, and then it's not up to me to try and get them, but by quoting that, it's God's work that's doing it. Warren.
Like when you were talking earlier about, you know, what Alan Dershowitz's thing, here's a different challenge from this to civil rights in the 60s. The black population is what? Somewhere about 30% of the population of this country. We are maybe 3%, and in the world we're even less.
But in this country, that's twice as much as the Muslims in this country. Not
much longer. And in other countries, in many parts of the United States, there are so many people who've never met a Jew. And so we have this even larger challenge to fight anti-Semitism to people who don't even know what we are.
And who still think, because their grandmother told them, we have horns and drink blood. We have horns and we drink blood. Right? But here's one of the things we can all do. And it's next Thursday night. It's a week from tomorrow. One of the things we can all do is remarry, be aware of our marriage with God, and observe Shavuot. Celebrate this wedding of Shavuot. Really celebrate it. We're starting at what time on Thursday night, Orlando? 7:30?
At the temple?
Yeah, at the temple. 7 or 7:30? 7. And we'll go as long as people have the energy to go of studying. And it's also, remember, it's a potluck of dairy and fruit. There's also a harvest holiday, and we need, as a result, bring ice cream, cheesecake, tiramisu cheesecake, creme brulee cheesecake, fruit salad cheesecake.
Cheesecake Factory?
Cheesecake Factory is always,
yeah,
absolutely. Any cheesecake is acceptable. But it's the idea, though, is to celebrate our wedding with God, because God has never forgotten our commitment. Yes.
Everything that we just all talked about, how to support each other and fight anti-Semitism, it's all true. Two things that we have to also do.
Well,
two things in my opinion, I think we're obligated to do is one, marry Jewish and raise Jewish children, because every year we lose more Jews to intermarriage than anything else, and to be united, support each other. Since October 8th, I've had an Israeli flag and an American flag on my car for almost 4 years now. I've had my flags ripped off my car at least 24 times. My car's been keyed. I've had death threats daily, personally, on all my social media accounts. But if we were all united, and all of us on all of our cars did something that said we're united and supporting, we drove in LA especially, if everybody had a flag on their car, Jewish or not, that supported Israel, that alone pushes that darkness of all this surus out, and it pushes it back to the fringe, and buries it again.
Look, this is why,
but these are the things.
What can each of us do? We each do what we can. This is why I've written an email every day except Shabbat and holidays for almost 3 years. It's October 7th. It's why we started this show, this podcast and radio show, which is now picking up a couple more stations, I was just told this afternoon, to put out, who we are in a different way. One of the problems is the non-Jew, what does he see as the Jewish symbol? He sees either the far left rabbi who's a part of Rabbis for Palestine and who's far left voting for the Democratic Party, which is, as again Dershowitz said, it's a chicken voting for KFC. Or they see people like Shmuel Boteach, who's another grifter, just looks Orthodox, but he's a slime ball too. And they do, that's what they see. They need to see all of us. Okay? Warren goes to UC Berkeley. He doesn't look, like an old Jew. He doesn't look, and he's saying, this is not okay. I look like a biker at a wedding when I'm in a suit. Who are we kidding? And we need to do that. And we need to promote that with each other. We need to push with each other. We need to support each other. And we need to step up. So hopefully this was worthwhile. We're going to cut out the recording for one moment. We have one more thing to do, right, Orlando? But hopefully this is good. Hazaku Baruch, that we should all be strong and blessed and celebrate Shavuot, knowing the covenant is everlasting and the land is ours by the person who gave it to us.